So the Indiana Fever is an odd organization. It's an odd organization. Like, we are now in a situation, obviously, where they've signed 75 guards and have one center. And you've then got the former GM tweeting about how fans are just complaining to complain after a big reason why the team was so iffy last season as a full squad was because that same former GM gave Katie Lou Samuelson a max contract, which they had to buy out. A multiple year near max contract. And we've now got a situation where the Indiana Fever just refuse to sign a big. Why won't they sign a big? What is wrong with them? Like, what is actually wrong with this team? Like, every other team. The Atlanta Dream. If you look at the Atlanta Dream of 20 players come to training camp. The Phoenix Mercury of 20 players come into training camp. Why won't they sign a big? Even for training camp. Like, in training camp games, I'm not joking. Because Justine Passat is a 6'4" wing. Like, she's like Katie Lou Samuelson. If they try to play her as a big, she's going to get eaten alive. But they have Aaliyah and Monique versus KK and Dantas. It is literally now what if one person, like, in practice, if one person's just like, you know what, I feel a little bit tired, they don't even have a backup bigs to go against the bigs. They don't even have scout team. Like, as in, let's just say they want to go like their first 7 in rotation. They don't even have scout team. Even last year. Actually, sorry. Maisha Hines-Allen's there. But still, if they want to say, you know what, fuck it, we're going to go our actual roster of 12 and we're going to play them against scout team. Like, which could very well happen. Which is a big thing in training camp. They don't even have scout team numbers. Every single big is likely going to make the roster. Why? Why can the Dallas Wings, who signed a bunch of really good bigs in free agency, how is it that they are able to get Oldacre? It is one of these things. Like, why are they able to get Oldacre? And even in terms of, like, wings, in, like, threes, you know how many actual wings the team has on the roster? Like, not guards. 2! The team has 2 true wings on the roster. One of the most important positions if you want to win a championship, because you've got to match up to Stewie, Satu, Leo Phoebish, Benijah Laney Hamilton. They've got 2. 2 on the entire roster. 2. And they don't have a hybrid. They do not have a 3-4 hybrid on the entire roster. Other than Justine Passat, who's not going to make the roster. They don't have a true center. Anywhere. They don't have a true center. They have a bunch of 4s that can play the 5. They don't have a true center. They have one defender in Leah Boston. Like, literally. They have one interior defender in Leah Boston. Molly Billings is passable. KK Timpson is unplayably bad on defense. Damiris Dantas at times, if she's on a slow big, she's strong, but she can be unplayably bad on defense. Maybe Maisha Hines-Allen, but she's giving up 4 inches in most of her matchups. She's playing the 5. Like, they have just gone with no size. And not only that, there is size. Like, there's size out there. There is size out there that they can find. Or at least there is size that you can bring out in training camp to try out for the team and see what they can do. You drafted Raven Johnson. You drafted a 5'9" point guard on the same day, a 5'9" guard on the same day as you signed 2 other 5'9" guards to training camp contracts. And then the next day you signed another 5'9" guard. Like, what are we doing? Genuinely. What are, as a organization, what are you doing? Why are you refusing to sign another big? Why are all the training camp players that are expected to be cut, as in Passat might make a developmental slot, and then eventually she's going to be playing for somebody else. But like, why is every single player an undersized guard? Like, what is the aversion to signing bigs? The team was too small last year, by the way. And for anyone who says, oh, look, they did fine in the playoffs. I mean this when I say this. This team got cooked by Mercedes Russell. This team could not... They were 1-3 against the Sparks last year because they couldn't deal with Mercedes Russell, Azare Stevens, De'Erica Hamby, and Cam Brink. They couldn't deal with the size. This team last year came up against two not very big teams in the playoffs, in the Atlanta Dream, who just shit the bed, and the Aces, who were terrible in that series. Who were terrible. Only because Aaliyah is great at guarding Aja. This team, if you watch this team without Caitlin Clark try to play the New York Liberty, and by the way, if you want to say, oh, the one game they did beat the Liberty was with Caitlin Clark, yeah. Caitlin had 25 points in the first half, and let's not forget as well, not only did she have 25 in the first half, the New York Liberty didn't have Jonquel Jones or Leo Fevers playing that game. The New York Liberty didn't have two of their starters playing. And yes, I think you can argue with the heater that Caitlin Clark was on, they were going to win anyway. I think that's a very fair argument to make. But like, they didn't beat a full-strength Liberty team, and they got killed twice. Like, even when they were beating teams, they got killed. This was a team, by the way, who struggled against the Washington Mystics without Caitlin Clark. And the reason why they struggled against the Mystics was because the Mystics had Shakira Austin, Kiki Iriafen. They had bigs. This was a team that could not deal with double bigs, and they got smaller. They couldn't deal with double bigs last year. Even with Caitlin Clark, they struggled against the Connecticut Sun. Why? Because the Connecticut Sun ran double bigs. They really struggled against a Connecticut Sun team that ran double bigs in Caitlin's last game before she got injured. It took Caitlin Clark, I think she scored 9 points in the fourth quarter and had two massive assists and the game-winning assists. This team, without Caitlin Clark, or with Caitlin Clark, cannot deal with double bigs. They couldn't deal with double bigs last year, and they're not going to be able to deal with double bigs this year because they're even smaller. They get killed in the offensive glass. Yes, they did well in the playoffs because they played a team who didn't play Brittany Griner. Just didn't play Brittany Griner because Carl Smith got benched there at that stage. If Brittany Griner plays that series, Fever probably lose. Also, you have to take into account that the Aces were not that big a team. Nalissa Smith does not play big. Kia Stokes did not see the floor. The Aces' backup power forward for a lot of minutes was Chelsea Gray. Chelsea Gray played a lot of power forward for the Aces. This team got murdered. I understand they beat the Mercury once. They got murdered the other two times. It wasn't even close. They got murdered. This team was like, they got killed by teams with double bigs. They got killed by them. Like, and even towards the end of the year, like when they started winning a couple of games, when they went in that 5-game win streak without Caitlin coming out of All-Star break, it was against kind of weaker teams. And they did well against, for example, like they did well against the Aces. They had the Aces number without Caitlin. They really did have the Aces number because the Aces did not take them seriously. But like, this team is going to lose to big teams. They're going to lose to the Liberty. They're going to lose to, like, the Dream. As much as they can get bigger height-wise, Angel Reese is a fucking dog. Like, they might beat the Dream, especially in the playoffs, but the Aces, at worst, were the same. And then they have added Kennedy Carter. But, like, this is a team that's going to really struggle against the Chicago Sky. Like, the Fever are going to struggle to beat the Sky. The Fever are going to struggle to beat the LA Sparks, who thankfully got a bit smaller. The Fever are going to struggle against the Golden State Valkyries again because of how they play. There are a lot of teams the Fever are going to really struggle against. And for me, it is like seeing what the actual biggest struggle for the Fever was with Caitlin Clark or without Caitlin Clark was Aaliyah Boston. As big as Aaliyah Boston is, she was the only bit of size they had. And the Fever got killed. Heck, I think the Fever might struggle a little bit against the Wings purely because of Jess Shepard. Let's not forget, The Indiana Fever gave up a triple-double in the first half to Jess Shepherd. Jess Shepherd holds the record in the WNBA for the fastest triple-double against the Indiana Fever. They gave up a triple-double in the first half to Jess Shepherd. And they refused to sign another big. I don't get it.